Hey everybody, this is a review week, so we are going to be reviewing Module 4, and I wanted to make a study guide video for that. In addition to this video, I'm going to post the answer key to all of these questions on Canvas as you study to take the test. The main thing I'm looking for here is that you're showing your work, because that will show me that you didn't just plug it into some kind of generator or something like that, that you actually understand what you're doing. So please pay attention to the steps as I kind of choose just a few of these problems to do. I'm not going to do them all. Let's start with number 1. So what you want to do when simplifying rational expressions, or even adding them together, is what you want to do is you want to factor and simplify anything that you can. So if I look at the numerator on number 1, I can tell that the greatest common factor of those two terms is 6. And they also have an x in common. And then I need to rewrite that as 2x minus 5. And those two are equivalent. And then I need to do the same thing on the bottom. And out of the bottom, I'm going to factor out a 10. And then I can actually get x squared factored out of those two. And then I'm going to have times 2x minus 5. And the reason why we simplified is because now we're allowed to get out our cross-out pen, and we can go like that, and we can go like that, and we are left with 6x over 10x squared, which would be partial credit because you have to reduce 6/10 to 3/5. And that leaves us with 1x on the bottom, because we have x over x squared, right? So these two would cancel, and you're left with just an x on the bottom. Okay, so that's kind of how number 1 works. I would also attempt I will do 2 with you as well. I think that's going to be important. Okay, so let's do the same thing, where I take the greatest common factor out of the top, and then let's go ahead and do the same on the bottom. Oh, oops. No, that's right. So those are divisible by 8 minus a. Okay. So there's actually some more simplifying to do here. If you recognize a squared minus 9, that is the difference of squares. So I'm going to have 4, a plus 3, a minus 3, all over my other one, which was what? 8. 3 take away a. Okay. Now, if you remember from one of my earlier videos, a minus 3 and 3 minus a aren't the same thing, but there's a way that we can make them the same by factoring out a negative 1. Okay. So what I do with my denominator is this, if that makes sense to you guys. And the reason for that is that's going to be equal. It's the same thing as this, right? Because this would give me negative 8a, and that would give me positive 24. And the reason I did that is so it would line up then with my numerator, which is right here. And now I can see that my a minus 3s are all lined up, and they go away. So I have this with an a plus 3 on the top, and then 4/8 simplifies to negative 1/2, and then a plus 3 on the top. Okay, that is how that one is going to work. Now, on your test, I'm not going to make you do any of the ones where a is not equal to 1. So number 3 you don't have to do, because that is a 3. Okay, if you do come across any where I put on there where a is not equal to 1, like 5, for example, this is still doable, because I can tell, and I'll show you by looking at this problem, that we can deal with this in this specific situation. So this is a multiplication problem, so we're getting into the next standard here. Okay, we went from simplifying now on to multiplication and division. So we need to simplify 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's start with the top right. So on the top right, I'm going to factor out a 2, and I'm going to have 2 and then 25 minus w squared. And then let's look at the bottom. Now, what divides into all of those? I can divide a 3 into all of those, like that, okay? Now you can see that I divided out a 3. Now this is a is equal to 1, and we're able to handle it. So if you see something where a isn't 1, it means that something can be divided out so it is 1, okay? I'm not going to make it like this problem here. See how I can't factor anything out of that? I'm not going to make it like that. So if you see a not equal to 1, that's what you have to do right there. It means there's something in there that you're able to divide out, turning it into the number 1. Okay, the top right, there's nothing that can be done, so I'm just going to rewrite it. And then the bottom right, I can factor out a 6. Okay, now we're ready to tackle the problem. So, I'll do this in a different color. So, I can tell that this is already backwards. So let's handle that last, and let's go with the bottom left. So we're pretty good at factoring when a is 1, so I'm going to have 3 parentheses. And then remember, this multiplies the negative 10 and adds to 3. And what does that? Well, it's 5 and negative 2, meaning this simplifies to x plus 5, x minus 2. Now I'm ready to tackle that weird top left part. So I'm going to have 2 and then 25 minus w squared. Now remember, these are switched. So if I want to switch them back to get the variable in the front, I need to factor out a negative 1. You might pause the video and try to see if you can do that on your own. So when I factor out a negative 1, I would go negative 2, parentheses, w squared. W squared, excuse me, plus, let's see, no, it will be minus, actually, 25. So I'm going to have negative 2, and then w squared minus 25. Okay, and I know that w squared minus 25 turns into w plus 5, w plus 5, w minus 5, and I'm sure you already noticed that I wrote x out of habit. So the variable here is w, but if you wanted to make them all x, you could still get it correct. Okay, let's go for the other side now. So for the other side, we are multiplying to negative 14 and adding to 5. So that would be 7 and negative 2. So this is going to become x plus 7, x minus 2. Not x though, of course. Again, out of habit, writing the wrong letter. So it'll be w, and it will be w. Okay. Very, very good. Now we have the bottom right as 6, and then w, got it right this time, minus 5. All right, so since this is multiplication, here's what we do. This is just one big fraction. And remember, if it was division, it's the same thing, but all you have to do is reciprocal the second one. So since this is one big fraction, we're able to cross off what we can. So I can tell that we have w minus 5 and w minus 5. I can tell we have w plus 5 and w plus 5. We have w minus 2 and w minus 2. And now we only need to rewrite what is left over, which is negative 2 w plus 7 over, well, whatever's left. What's left? 3 times 6 is the only thing that's left over. And that gets you most of the credit. You just need to reduce negative 2/18 to negative 1/9, and then have w plus 7 as the numerator, and you are finished. So go ahead and tackle some of these on your own. If you want to try some of the ones where a isn't equal to 1, you can do that, and then check it out in the answer key. And then on the next video, I'll go ahead and start getting into some of the adding, and then I'll get into the graphing, of course, as well.